Hey guys, tonight we're diving into 15 medieval meals so brutal, peasants called it survival. Forget everything Hollywood told you, this is the real story, and trust me, you probably wouldn't last a day. So before you get too comfortable, hit that like button if you enjoy this kind of deep dive, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Now, dim the lights, maybe grab a snack, and let's jump in. You wake up in a damp, straw-filled corner of your lord's land. Because congratulations, you're a medieval peasant now. The rooster screams at you like it's personally offended by your existence. And your bones ache from sleeping on what can only be described as hay flavored with mildew and peasant regret. Your stomach growling like a wolf. But breakfast isn't bacon and eggs. Oh no. It's something that looks like the love child of glue and rainwater. Pottage, not the creamy, herb-filled stuff the nobles got. This version is just boiled barley, a few turnips that looked like they gave up on life halfway through growing. And, if you're lucky, a bone someone else already chewed. And yes, it's the same bowl from yesterday. No, it wasn't washed. There is no soap. There is only flavor. That flavor is mud and sadness. Ever tried eating depression with a wooden spoon? Now you have. But hey, it's warm, and it fills your stomach just enough that you don't hallucinate by noon. So, win. By midday, you're knee-deep in feudal capitalism, plowing, planting, or hauling things too heavy for your malnourished frame. What's lunch? More pottage. Surprise. Only now it's thinner because you ran out of barley and added water to stretch it. Oh, and bread. Not sourdough, not baguettes. You get black bread, which sounds cool until you find out it's black because it's made from rye. Dirt and desperation, and occasionally flavored with ergotar, delightful fungus that causes hallucinations and sometimes death. Yep. Your sandwich might actually fight back. You chew slowly, not for mindfulness, but because your only tooth is hanging in there like a soldier. Also, you're technically trespassing if you're foraging wild herbs to spice it up. So enjoy that illegal parsley while you can. Dinner is whatever didn't rot, run away, or kill someone. If it's winter, congrats. It's salted fish from 3 villages over. Smells like sea ghosts and tastes like regret. If it's summer, maybe some boiled nettles, a few snails, or, on a good day, a hedgehog, roasted whole and wrapped in clay. You crack the clay off to remove the spines. Delicious, maybe, ethical, debatable, necessary, absolutely. No one talks much during dinner. Not just because you're tired, but because chewing takes energy, and words are a luxury. Someone jokes that you'll have meat tomorrow. You all laugh, because the only time you get meat is when something dies by accident. And even then, half the village shows up with knives like it's a Black Friday sale on ribs. But we're just getting started, because what happens when the crops fail? What happens when plague hits the village and food becomes negotiable? And what did peasants eat when they got desperate, really desperate? Let's just say, some meals weren't entirely plant-based. But more on that in the next serving. The year is whenever the crops failed, which, let's be honest, was every other year. Too much rain, famine. Too little rain, famine. Locusts, war, a bishop sneezed wrong. Yep, famine. Now you're not eating to live, you're eating to not die. You scavenge for tree bark. You boil it, scrape it, mash it, pretend it's bread. It isn't. It tastes like splinters, dipped in tears. But hey, it fills space. You try grass, raw, cooked. Doesn't matter. Your body's like, nope, and promptly sends it right back out, from both ends, simultaneously. Ever had acorn mash? Medieval peasants did, but acorns are naturally toxic unless you soak and boil them dozens of times to remove the tannins. Did they always do that? Nah. Sometimes you rolled the dice, and sometimes the dice said, organ failure. You know what else hits the medieval dinner table during hard times? Cats, dogs, rats. Yes, rats. Not as a delicacy, not as a joke, as meat. You see one scurry across the floor, and instead of screaming, you think, that's tomorrow's protein. Thirsty. Hope you like your water with a side of dysentery. Because unless you're drinking straight from a spring, which you're not, your water's been lovingly seasoned with bacteria, waste, and the occasional dead frog. So, what do you drink? Ale, weak ale, barley water, yes, even the kids. Because fermentation kills germs, and diarrhea kills people. Also, it's easier to stomach tree bark if you're a little tipsy. Milk, only if you have an animal. Which you probably don't. And even if you did, that milk goes to the Lord, not you. Because feudalism. And just when you think you can't get hungrier, the church says it's Lent. No meat, no dairy, 40 days. But you're already eating boiled weeds and bark. What more can you give up? Oxygen. This is when peasants get creative. Some monks declared beaver tails to be fish so they could eat them during Lent. Yes, really. The logic, tails are wet. Fish are wet. Boom, divine loophole. Others went for snail pies, because apparently snails didn't count as meat. You haven't known culinary horror until you've seen a pie wriggle. But this was survival, not cuisine. It wasn't about flavor, it was about staying alive long enough to see the next harvest. Or at least the next moon. And through it all, they kept going. Through famine, plague, war, and soup that looked like pond water. But what happens when things did go right? What did peasants feast on during good years, or on special days? And just how wild did their treats get when they finally had something to celebrate? There's a story involving blood pudding, fermented fish, and a cake that might summon demons. So the crops didn't fail this year. No plague, no invading armies, no weird fog killing the sheep. It's a miracle. The village bells ring, people smile for the first time in months, and your stomach growls in anticipation of what peasants called a feast, and what we'd call a respectable apocalypse buffet. You're handed something that looks suspiciously like sausage. But, surprise, it's blood pudding, basically coagulated animal blood, fat, and oatmeal, all lovingly stuffed into an intestine. Warm, slippery, kind of metallic. But listen, when you're starving, you will lick the spoon. Next up, fermented fish. Not just a little off. We're talking buried, aged, recoved, fermented. The smell could dissolve armor. But hey, in a world without fridges, you either learn to love funk, or you die with clear sinuses. You're also served cheese, rock hard, barely chewable, and more rind than actual cheese. You gnaw on it like a medieval rat with a dental grudge. It's technically food. Technically. And then, dessert. Yes, dessert existed. But don't expect sugar-frosted fairy tales. Expect honey cakes made from rough barley flour, sweetened with whatever bee product didn't get stolen by wasps or winter. Dense, absolutely. Sweet, barely. Still a miracle, oh yes. Because in a world where eating anything beyond your 5th bowl of pottage counts as luxury, this is as good as it gets. Let's be honest, peasants weren't just sad sacks with spoons. They got creative. Wild herbs like ramsons, sorrel, or mugwort were thrown into stews for flavor. Because while you can't afford meat, you can commit flavor crimes in a good way. They made flatbreads with ashes to add texture. They smoked things, fermented things, even pickled nettles, yes, the stinging plant, into something edible and vaguely zesty. Peasants were the OG survival chefs. No budget, no kitchen, just fire, guts, and desperation. Still feel like you're ready to go back in time and live your cottagecore fantasy. Because here's the thing, they didn't choose this aesthetic. They endured it. But what about noble food? What were the lords eating while the peasants gnawed bark and blessed fermented snails? What really went on in the castle kitchens beyond the roast swans and jellied eels? And was noble food actually better, or just weirder? Let's just say, if you think peasants ate strange things, wait until you hear about the royal banquet that included live birds sewn into pies. Our next video, we're pulling back the velvet curtain on the woman who ruled an empire while her body was silently betraying her. A queen whose limbs decayed while her power remained absolute. A body rotting in real time while her subjects still bowed and kissed her hand. And after that, we'll meet the Duchess who defied centuries of pressure because she knew her bloodline was a ticking time bomb. You've heard the myths. Now you'll see the real horror hidden behind royal lace and gold leaf. The portraits get darker from here.